Thanks, Sammy. So, hi, my name is Adam Martin. I'm a journalist and a graphic designer specializing in data visualization. I teach at Merrill College of Journalism here at UMD, and I run the graphics bureau for the Capitol News Service here on campus. Before this, I worked at the Baltimore Sun for about 15 years, where I ran the data and graphics desk there. I'm really excited to be here today and to be working with the Immersive Media Design Department. In the past few years, journalism has really embraced immersive media technologies and techniques to tell deep and engaging stories. This is a practice that's generally referred to as immersive storytelling or immersive journalism or simply just XR journalism. In particular, journalists and news publications have used augmented reality, virtual reality, photogrammetry, 360 video, and creative coding techniques. And these techniques have been integrated with more traditional journalistic storytelling and reporting methods to report stories in really new and exciting ways. So these techniques can be useful to explore specific topics and physical spaces and news events. They can also be used to examine and explain specifically what happened at an event and give viewers a really exciting first-person perspective. And examples of places this have been used recently is like at the explosion at the Beirut port last year or at the storming of the Capitol on 1/6. Currently, immersive stories sort of fall into two broad categories. The first is what we sort of consider daily immersive content, which includes like 3D images and simple data visualizations and AR that blend with websites and article pages, often using inner scroll technology just to sort of take daily news reporting to the next level. The other category is larger tentpole immersive content, which tends to consist of story-driven projects that take viewers on a journey exclusively when they have access to the latest phones and apps, and that really takes them outside of the traditional news consuming space and into a new frame of reference. So I'll show a few examples of this type of content in just a sec, and as you'll see from the examples, in the newsroom there tends to be a real overlap in the use of immersive media with the worlds of data viz and interactive journalism. And I'd say in general, this tends to be a fairly high-end endeavor, and it's most practiced by the real top tier of publications. So that's publications like the New York Times, the Washington Post, Time Magazine. But more and more often, you're seeing publications and journalists, at other levels starting to use these immersive methods. There are some specialist practitioners of this type of work in the journalism field that are embedded directly in newsrooms. Journalists have particularly jumped on 360 video and VR. But oftentimes with these type of projects, what we see is publications partnering with specialized agencies or individual specialists to complete immersive storytelling projects. And that really opens up opportunities for immersive media design students in this space. Journalism is a place where these students will have practical opportunities to do this type of work. Of course, the difference is that all work in this space must be approached from a journalistic storytelling perspective and follow the journalistic ethical guidelines as defined by the Society for Professional Journalists. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'll share screen and we can take a look at a couple examples of this kind of work. Okay, so what we see here is a project from the Washington Post called How to Dress for Space. And this is a pretty simple project. It uses 3D photo just to sort of walk through what they call 5 iconic spacesuits in 3D from 50 years of spaceflight. And so this, like almost all the projects that we'll take a look at, use this inner scroll technology. I called it a minute ago. We call it scrollytelling, where you sort of use your mouse scroll to interact with the project, right? And we see the scroll triggers the animation and triggers the movement and moves these text boxes over top. So as we scroll down, right, this is fairly common journalistic storytelling technique with this type of work. We're scrolling down and we're getting some text boxes and some information as we're sort of moving around the 3D photo and seeing it. And this is just much more engaging and interactive and exciting way to sort of present this information than just with some photos. And they've basically done the same thing for all 5 of the photos. This is the one that Neil Armstrong wore. It's just really sort of interesting way to present this. The next project I wanted to show is a really cool piece of work from the New York Times interactive desk. that looks at how masks help to prevent transmission of COVID-19. It's called Masks Work, really. We'll show you how. And again, this is a combination of 3D and animation and storytelling to help tell this story about how masks work, right? So we have lots of different kinds of masks, but generally they all work by taking layers of fiber that capture respiratory droplets that carry coronavirus. So that process is called filtration. And we're slowly going to start zooming in, so we'll get an idea of exactly how that filtration works on a microscopic level. So this is where it gets really interesting, and we sort of come into that microscopic level, right? And we see how fibers of cotton sort of interact with different size droplets that could potentially transmit coronavirus. So we see the droplets having to travel through this dense forest of fibers, larger particles easily getting trapped in the fibers, whereas the smaller particles of medium size get a little farther in. The smallest particles start being bounced around before eventually being captured by the fabric. So then we take a look at an N95 respirator and how that works a little bit differently, and how the synthetic materials are arranged in various sizes to sort of capture the particles in different ways. And then we sort of look at how the fit of masks affects the airflow and affects how effective they are, right? Creating different breathing zones. And then we use some of this animation to look at how aerosol particles can travel outside of masks, and then ultimately, the best protection is from two people talking to each other, both of them wearing the same mask. This is a highly effective piece of work, right, that uses really interesting technology to sort of make a compelling case for wearing masks. The next project I wanted to show where it gets into the world of AR, and it's from USA Today, who's experimented a lot with AR. And so to view these projects, you have to have the USA Today's AR phone app. And this project is about women's suffrage. And what they've done is animate some women's suffrage speeches and let you project them into physical spaces using the app. So we'll just take a quick look at this video.
We are assembled to protest against a form of government existing without the consent of the governed, to declare our right to be free as man is free.
It is difficult to believe that any individual in the United States with one drop of African blood in his veins can oppose women's suffrage. What could be more absurd than to see one group of human beings who are denied rights, which they are trying to secure for themselves, working to prevent another group from obtaining the same rights?
Let the joy be unconfined,
So
and
it's an interesting project, and we've seen this type of work across the industry. Time Magazine did a pretty famous project where they let you use their AR app to see like the space shuttle launches in your living room. This has been sort of a method that's been gaining traction. As I mentioned earlier, we see a lot of crossover in this world with data visualization. And this is a project that was done by Georgia Lupi, who's a very famous data visualization specialist with a studio called Accurat, and she's a partner at Pentagram now. And this is the browser version, the web version of this project called Building Hope that was built with Google News Initiative, who sponsors a lot of this type of work in our industry. So if we click start, it's going to let us choose some different things that mean something to us, that we're hopeful for. And it's going to start building, put these different colored rocks up here. And I'll just choose a bunch of them just to sort of demonstrate what this does. There we go. So once we've got a bunch of them, we can say done. It'll ask me for my name and location. And it's going to build like a stone statue or a rock cairn out of these hopes that I've said are important to me. And it allows us to sort of explore the data a little bit, to see, interest over time in searches for those topics. And we can also go down to compare our cairns to other people's and sort of close by. But where this gets really interesting is where there's also an AR app that sort of allows you to project these stones onto physical spaces with the app. So those are the projects I wanted to show today. This is definitely an exciting sort of new new method in journalism that's really opened up a lot more methods for storytelling that I think we're going to see a lot in the future. So thanks so much for letting me talk today.